Let's get back to the 80s with a special lens, a special replica lens of a lens that was a legend and it's still a legend, and I'm starting to understand why this lens is a legend and why it's a great thing that we have a new designed lens that is replicating that lens. I'm really loving this lens. I asked personally for this lens because it has so great features on it that yes, I wanted to use it, and I'll tell you immediately why this lens, why this focal length, why this aperture. So let's talk about this now. Hi there and welcome to my channel. My name is Tudor Matescu, and in this video I want to review this lens from the 80s, just the style, because this is a new lens made by Artra Lab. It's a Nonikkor replica lens. But first of all, what focal length is this lens? This lens is 35mm f1.4, and more than that, it has a minimum focus distance of 0.35 meters, so 35 centimeters. This means you can get really close to your subject for portraiture photography, for food photography, for product photography, for getting the details. This is crazy. I was really amazed of the minimum focus distance paired with a 35 meters fast, bright aperture lens f1.4. So a lens able to deliver in any space conditions and in any lighting conditions on a full frame camera. I have this lens paired on my Sony a7C. That is a great camera. I really recommend this camera. If you don't have a Sony a7C full frame camera, I'm feeling that the price for this camera is the best that you can get regarding what you get and what you pay. So really recommend Sony a7C. But if you have Nikon ZF or Nikon Z5 or Lumix or other L-mount cameras, you can get this lens in those mounts. So you are able to get this lens in any mount. So I've received this lens because I've asked for it, and I've used it for what I was thinking that this lens is great. For portraits, 35mm f1.4, environmental portraits, outdoors, indoors, for street photography, and I was very curious how this lens will perform. And it really amazed me because this lens has an unique rendering, great on a full frame sensor. I've looked at the Nonikkor 35mm f1.4 AIS from the 80s, 70s, and I'm feeling this lens, it's rendering exactly like that lens. Also, looking at the design of this lens, yes, it's almost exactly as the Nonikkor from the 80s. So, what about the design? Well, the design is great because it's a functional design. The lens is small and it has the right weight to it. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. It's making your camera look great, but more than that, it's making your camera very operational. So, the focusing ring has such a great grip to it. It's a pleasure to keep your hand on the focusing ring and to focus it. And the throw almost silent and very accurate. I'm really loving the focusing of this lens. It's so easy to focus with this lens. I was always an advocate for lenses with focusing tab, but this kind of design for this kind of focusing throw, it didn't make me any problems in acquiring focus. I'm not a manual focusing expert, and especially at f1.4, but with focus picking or with zoom in and rotating the focusing ring was very easy for me to acquire focus, and also without focus picking because the lens is very sharp at f1.4. I was focusing on the eye, and if I wasn't moving or the subject wasn't moving, the eye was in focus and very, very sharp. So very easy for me to acquire focus at f1.4 for portraits. So great, really great, is doing the job amazing good. And the image is rendering very fine details, enough, plenty of sharpness. Don't expect modern Sony or Nikon sharpness or Voigtlander sharpness. Expect Nonikkor 80s sharpness, but in a good way, not like a film vintage lens. It's resolving enough resolution to make from that image a digital looking image if you want that. But more than that, the rendering is very special. It has a low contrast curve, I'm feeling, but in a good way. If I'm just setting the contrast to +5, +10, I already have enough contrast, and I have lots of details in the shadows and in the highlights. So the fall of the details, the tonalities, I don't know, it's a special glass here that it's rendering in a special way the image. It's really special. I'm feeling that this lens is giving me a more latitude in post-processing, like I'm using an Ilford film. So more latitude in post-processing and good latitude. Not a washy lens, not a low contrasty lens in a bad way. No, in a good way. So image quality regarding all these characteristics, it's great. Also the bokeh balls are great. The bokeh is sometimes smooth, sometimes busy, sometimes it's rendering the bokeh balls very sharp. It really depends on the background of your scene, but you can get very creative results regarding the bokeh. So a very versatile lens, something between a Zeiss and a Minolta, I don't know. It's very unique, this is the right word. It's a special lens that you will really love it for the special effects that will bring to the table. But yes, it has all these special characteristics that are good, but also it has some flaws, it flares, and also it has some chromatic aberration. So if you will shoot into the sun, I do recommend use an ND filter and a lens hood. This will help reduce flare and chromatic aberrations. So other than that, I'm not seeing any problems for the purpose of this lens. It's feeling great in the hand. It has a nice aperture with one stops from f1.4, f2, f2.8, f4, and so on. So it's very easy to set the exposure how you want it. So if you are a master of exposure triangle, you'll be very okay in setting the exposure how you want it. Also the zone focusing, it's working great, and all it's working great. The infinity point is not at the hard stop, but if you set the infinity mark at this point, you will be able to get to infinity at f1.4, but also at f5.6 I'm feeling that you'll be okay wherever you are between that point and that indication. I'm not a master of this kind of design, and I didn't study how the Nikkor lens is working. Probably the same, because I've looked at the old Nikkor pictures and the scale is the same. So the grip of the aperturing, it's nice, it's well damped, all it's working perfect. So if you want a great lens, a legendary lens at a great price, I'm really recommending to get this lens and to check the other Artra Lab lenses. You'll be able to get the Nikon vibes on your camera, or also you'll be able to take your Nikon ZF to the next level of retro functioning camera. Not just looks, but functioning as a retro camera, because you have aperture ring and a focusing ring that is so well damped that you will not be able to miss focus, especially with the Nikon ZF focusing system. And another very important point to address, at f1.4 the portraits are popping, and the portraits are popping not just because you have the f1.4 aperture, the blades, and you have the subject to background separation. No, you have some 3D pop to it, a special 3D pop to it, different from Leica and Zeiss, but it's there, a very interesting 3D pop to it. The fall off, the bokeh balls, the subject to background separation, the contrasty look, the, I don't know, it's really magic. And if you know how to use this lens, and if you'll edit the files, you can get whatever files you want. You can go with a contrasty look, you can go with a very filmish look. So I'm just thinking to apply some filmish presets on the portraits that I've done with this lens. I will try it and I will publish it on this video just to show you what I was able to get with this lens. So this lens, it's a totally joy to use. It's made by Artralab 35mm f1.4, and I've made a special video how I am feeling about this lens. Now, check the affiliate links, check the Artralab's links that aren't affiliate. Check my newsletter, subscribe to my newsletter for more photography tips and tricks. Subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment and click the next video. It's also about this lens and how this lens was able to give me the Nikon vibes, and why I like to use it so much. Please check the next video. It's helping me a lot, it's helping the algorithm a lot, more than a like and a comment they are saying. So click the next video, click here right now.